All right, so today we're talking about this bad boy right here. The real inexpensive, basic blade grinder. Not your ideal coffee brewing tool, but very inexpensive and for a lot of people, already in your cabinet. So I figured why not show you some little hacks you can do to get better results from it. Hey guys, Ted Jones here, owner of Riverview Coffee Roasters. I exclusively roast the top 1% of the world's coffee. Roasted to order and shipped to you at the pace you like. I also teach you everything you need to know to get world-class coffee in the comfort of your own home. So if it's your first time on the channel and you'd like to see more, make sure to hit the subscribe button. Also hit the bell notifications button and the like button so you can always be notified when I put up a new post. Let's go ahead and take it out. This is just a basic Euroware stainless steel grinder. It's really great for grinding spices, but most people bind them for grinding their coffee. Of course, a burr grinder is always going to be better for you, but that's going to be a little bit of an investment. And I say investments in coffee tools are well worthwhile. As you see from my other videos, I explain why they make such a big difference. For example, a burr grinder is going to give you a really even, clean cut grind without having powders or too big of chunks. But you can get pretty close if you try do a little things with this one. So there's a tendency to fill this too full. And as you see, there's just a little blade here. If you put the lid on, it'll go. That's a little safety measure so you don't cut your finger, but right? So you gotta hold the button down constantly. That's one thing about this kind of grinder. Another grinder, you can set it, forget it, tell it how much you want, it'll do it. It's the whole thing for you, right? This is more of a manual experience, so you're gonna wanna be there for the whole process. And people, like I said a minute ago, people overfill these because they wanna grind a whole pot of coffee, right? And then there's that whole tendency to think that more is better. And grinding and grinding and grinding this thing over and over and over until you end up with just a bunch of powder. And what's powder really good for? Primarily espresso brewing, right? And the reason is because the flavor comes out really fast, really concentrated, and you're getting all the flavor out with those fine powders super quick. But when you're doing regular brewing, like a drip coffee, a pour over coffee, it's gonna come out slower. It's gonna take a few minutes to brew, right? So you use powdered coffee that you ground too much and it's gonna taste yucky, really bitter. So what I recommend with this is you fill it about halfway. This is my Italian dark chocolate blend. It's one of my darker ones. It's got some really nice dark chocolate notes that you'd get from an artisan quality chocolate. So I'd fill it about this full, like up to the top of the metal. And then you're gonna wanna do a pulsing and shaking method. So I'll show you how that works. You're gonna do that about 6, 7 times until you get a nice even grind. So if you look in there right now, you can see there's still some big chunks and some big flakes, right? And I'm sure there's some powder in there as well. Let's go ahead and finish grinding this one up just so we can see our results, and then I'll show you a different little tip. Why are we doing this? Because every time we shake it, the chunks go to the bottom and the powders go to the top. Okay, let's see what we've got now. I like to give things a little tap because it settles in all the little fines and you don't end up with as much of a mess on your counter. So another little trick you can do is, see, this is actually fairly even. But I see quite a lot of powder in there, which is gonna result in bitter flavor and murkiness in your cup. And for me, after testing tons of coffees, roasting coffees for many years, what I find is that I really love an even, clean cup. Doesn't have a lot of residue in it, or any residue for that matter. So if you pour this through a strainer, for one thing, you can kind of see what I'm talking about as far as these powders. But for another thing, if you wanted to brew an even cup and you just hadn't gotten your burr grinder in the mail yet, or maybe you just were waiting because you didn't want to make the expense yet. Like I said, tools are well worthwhile, but there's always times when you have to wait, right? So what we got here is, look, there's a lot of powder, right? In a darker roast, you're gonna get more powder. Lighter roast, you're gonna get very little because the beans are so dense. They're almost like little rocks and they'll break into little chunks. But when it's a well roasted coffee, as far as a dark roasted coffee, the cell walls in the beans become so brittle, so thin because there's primarily charcoal left. And that's what gives you that dark look. It looks kind of like a coal, right? And so you will taste more burnt flavor, and especially if you put all this powder in there. And this one, we lost a lot, but look at this, nice and coarse, right? You could save this for a different brewing method, something maybe you only steep about a minute. Save this for something you steep about 4 minutes. Gonna get a much better cup that way because it'll be the amount of time that the water's in contact with the grounds will be directly correlated to how fine it's ground. The finer it's ground, the faster it'll brew. The coarser it's ground, the longer it'll brew. Anyway, just wanted to give you a couple tips on how to use the basic blade grinder today. You can get these on my website for $20 just to get you started if you really want to get into a higher level coffee. Another thing is you're going to want to have coffee that's roasted in the last 2 weeks. Something I didn't know at all when I first got into coffees. I loved getting cups of coffee out, and then when I started buying it by the pound, I would let it go stale and all sorts of things, which you could see in my story videos and some of my other ones. I've got so many great ones you could check out. If you want to go to my website, you could see different brewing tutorials, different brewing supplies. You can see what's on my menu currently. I always do ones based on the flavor profile. I have blends and single farm varietals from specific areas in the world. So it's really fun. Have a good time with it. Go on there, check it out, place your first order, contact me. I'll let you know, hey, how did you get into coffee? What's your experience with it? How did you find me? We could start a relationship from there. Then I start out with subscription plans where you could just order at the pace you like it delivered. Boom, boom, boom. Just like I said in the intro, you'll be getting your fresh coffee. Won't even have to think about it anymore. Every day, better quality of life, better coffee, better day. All right, I'm Ted, signing off. See you on the next one.